Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Thursday morning. This is Thursday Morning Live. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us this morning. And, buckle up. You're in for a ride. We're going to have a great guest this morning. We'll get to that in a minute. But here, if you're new to the show, thanks for joining us. I'm glad that you're here this morning. What I would like you to do is, follow us, like us, love us. We're always bringing out good content, things that will help your business grow, whether it's from the sales end, whether you're talking to sellers, or whether you are raising capital. Whatever you're doing, we're bringing something to you that's going to help you grow your business. This morning, my guest is a tech guy, and that's actually the name of his company, The Tech Guy. We'll get to Mark in a minute. But if you are out on YouTube, please smash the subscribe button and continue to follow us there, and join our Facebook group at Multifamily Unplugged for the best relevant content that you're going to get, because we are always talking about live events, new events, webinars, training, things coming up that, again, are just going to help you skyrocket your business through the year. Hey, I want to remind you, coming up October 19th and 20th, my annual 2-day multifamily summit. You're not going to want to miss this year. I have some great guests. We're going to be talking about everything from self-directed IRAs and how to use those in your investing, from active investing to passive investing. One of my panels this year is going to be high net worth, high income earning multifamily sponsors that have done hundreds of thousands of deals over the last few years. It's a panel you're not going to want to miss. My special friend Matthew Ferry will be joining me on Thursday that week for a working lunch where we're going to talk about mindset and how we get rid of the drunk monkey that we all hang on to in our lives. So make sure that you get to the event this year. There should be a link down in the bio or in the description, show notes, and be able to get registered early. There's early bird special on tickets, so don't miss out on this year's event. My keynote speaker on Friday will be Matt Faircloth, so you are not going to want to miss this year's event. It is going to be action-packed. Hey, my guest this morning, Mark Vena from the Bay Area in California. Mark has a company in Silicon Valley, Smart Tech Research, and let's see what Mark can help us do to get a little better with our tech stuff. Hey, Mark, good morning. How are you?
Mike, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you. Love that.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to your call.
You bet. Hey, listen, I love the bridge picture behind you. Love the Golden Gate Bridge.
That's really me. That's really my home. I'm really sitting right in front of the Golden Gate Bridge. I do that because I have calls with so many clients and customers all over the world. Actually, the first thing you do, you spend 10 minutes. Hey, where are you? Well, guess what? I'm in the Bay Area. It's a subliminal marketing ploy. So yeah, but I'm in the Bay Area. I'm right in the heart of Silicon Valley, probably 12 minutes away from the Apple spaceship campus.
Nice, good for you. That's awesome. Hey, Mark, so as we get started here, one question I always ask my guests, first thing is, in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
Oh, I think that's a very, very good question. So just thinking about that, I would probably say pragmatic. That's probably a good word. And that's probably a surprising term to use since I'm in the technology space. But the interesting thing about doing what I do for the last 20 years, I'm a big believer. I'm an eternal optimist about the impact that technology can have on people's lives, on their homes. The smart home obviously has become a huge deal over the last 20 years or so. But people tend to get very ambitious. They have this imagery of the Jetsons in mind, if they're going to be flying around one day. And, my belief is that, hey, that might happen one day. But there are things that you can do with your home. There are capabilities that you can take advantage of that really can help you be more productive, be more useful at home. The smart home now has implications for your health, for monitoring your kids, for your security. So I think pragmatic is probably a good word because it kind of balances out, the ambition of technology and what I like to see people kind of consider when they're looking at different technology aspects of their life.
Mark, when you talk about the Jetsons, that dates us a little bit, I think.
Yes, it does. Yes, it
Yeah.
does. Yes,
Hey,
it does.
do I mean, look, when you look at cars and things like that today, you have, we got self-driving cars, cabs, Ubers, they're really testing that, kind of pushing that envelope a little bit. Uh, and I have to ask seriously, I mean, do you ever actually see a Jetson car where you're going to be flying?
Oh, I think that will happen one day. Oh, I think that you're already seeing. They have a phrase for it that I can't remember off the top of my head, but they now have literally oversized drones. That can have one or two passengers. The battery life, unfortunately, is only about 25 minutes, and they're not practical. The FAA is going to give these devices these kind of call them personal transporters, so to speak, and that will happen one day. And the point you just made about smart cars and cars with a lot of technology, even today, right now, the amount of silicon technology, chips, subsystems in today's cars, not even EVs, but today, if you've bought a car in the last 10 years, probably 15, 20, 25% of the build of material in the car is silicon. Is some type of technology of some type. So the car you're driving today is probably really a computer on four wheels, frankly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Speaking of cars, I quit working on cars as soon as engines started putting computers in engines. I, couldn't figure out how to change the oil or the brakes
Oh
anymore.
yeah. It's become overwhelming if you try to
Too many
if you try to
sensors.
maintain your car yourself, unless you have a degree in computer technology from the manufacturer you bought the car from. Probably a very awesome, tough thing to comprehend.
Yeah. So, Mark, with your experience, your knowledge in the tech sector, or why don't we do this? Why don't you talk a little bit about your history? How'd you get into doing what you're doing, and talk a little bit exactly about what you do in your
Yeah.
career?
Yeah, so I've had an interesting journey in my career. The first 20 years or so was really focused on three or four major companies, technology companies that were household names. I spent 10 years with Compaq, good old Compaq in Houston, Texas. I was one of the original product managers on the Presario brand, which was the first consumer brand of PCs, which the kids don't remember this, but there was a day when you bought a PC, it wasn't designed for consumers. They were designed for business people, and Compaq changed all of that back in the 90s. I spent 6 years with Dell. With Dell and Compaq were big rivals at that time. I eventually got very heavily involved in gaming. I ran the marketing team at Alienware, which is still today a very popular gaming brand. So I really come from a corporate America standpoint. Worked for big corporations, was on the product side. Know all the issues that are involved in the trade-offs that you have to make when you define a product. I worked. Then I moved out to Silicon Valley back in 2007, if I'm not mistaken. So quite 13, 14, 15 years ago. And I got involved in a technology ingredient company, so a company called Synaptics, which is a very, very popular company with manufacturers who put capacitive touch devices. Your touchpad on your computer is a capacitive touch device. The touch screen that you have on your phone at some point comprehended capacitive touch. It essentially senses the electrical charge in your finger. And that was kind of an eye-opener, because when you work for a technology company that's the ingredient in another product, it gives you a completely different appreciation for the way technology is implemented at the manufacturer's level. So I really, have come at things really from an engineering and a product standpoint. And then about 6 years ago, I decided to make a pivot, and I decided to embrace market research and technology research. And I'm now I own my own company, Smart Tech Research, in San Jose, California. And what I do is I do a lot of market coverage of different companies out there, some very, household names that I won't list, but it's, you probably would recognize every single one. I have a popular podcast channel myself, the Smart Tech Check podcast, where I interview executives and users people in the industry about what's the latest, what are the issues, and obviously there's the nice thing about technology, it's not like a bank job, it's always changing every 15 minutes, and there's also a lot of controversy from time to time on different technology issues, like AI, for example, is a big. I'm sure we'll talk about that for a second. But that's a big deal right now because there's kind of a gold rush mentality going on with that. So between that, and I also write for a publication called Tech News World, Tech News World, which is the one of the premier technology publications in the industry. So a lot of that plus consulting. So that's kind of what my company does.
Yeah, interesting. And how does how does AI play into what you're doing today? Is it helpful? Is it just distracting?
I think AI is, I'm glad you asked that question, Mike. AI is probably the biggest thing I've seen in my entire career, including the birth of the internet, when the internet started to become mainstream in the 90s, and we didn't have to have dial-up modems. For me, it's been incredibly helpful because I use AI in my writing to research things very quickly. It doesn't replace, my writing, so you have to still be able to be a good writer. But if you use it the right way, it can save you a tremendous amount of time. And the applications that are coming at it right now are mind-boggling. There are Gen AI AI apps back there that basically you can say, "Hey, show me a picture of Mike standing on the Golden Gate Bridge with a chimpanzee running down the Golden Gate Bridge," and it will create an image or even a video for you. And it's just incredible the amount of time and creativity it can unleash. Now that's the upside. The downside, obviously, is that there's been lots of chatter that you've probably read about in terms of job displacement. That is true in certain jobs. I think AI will have a impact on certain jobs out there. I mean, customer service jobs, for example. I mean, there will be a point in time where you will never interface with a human on a website. It will all be some type of interactive AI-based process for customer service. The really dark side of AI, and I'm very concerned about this. My concern level is at a 10, is around the ability for AI to create deep fakes, be able to take an image and modify it in such a way that it's completely fake. And even at the video level, we've all seen funny videos on TikTok and on Instagram. Well, now that just the average person would be able to do this and use it for nefarious reasons deeply concerns me. And technology companies have an obligation to allow people to detect when a deep fake is. It may be a deep fake could be funny if it's something with an animal or even a person doing something that is outrageous. But a deep fake can also be very dangerous if it creates a video of something that allows that a person's reaction to it might be so angry or so emotional they might do something destructive.
Yeah.
So and again, I don't want to get too maudlin, but there is a dark side of AI that concerns me.
Yeah, I think we always have to kind of watch out for some of that fake stuff. Even on social media, somebody will steal somebody's account, and you could kind of tell. But I totally understand what you're saying about that. It could get ugly, and
Well,
destructive.
and let me just jump in for a second. Part of the reason is, and I use the phrase gold rush. There is absolutely a gold rush mentality going on with the big technology companies out there because, as you know, smartphone sales have been flat to going down a little bit. PC sales, the PC sales exhibited a kind of a surge during the pandemic, but that's now over. So the technology industry, and this is a macro comment, but the technology industry tends to be a category that companies tend to swarm over the next big thing. And that's good, but it's also bad because they'll cut corners. Privacy is not quite as important. I've had some very senior level conversations with, I'm not going to name who the companies are, where they're almost taking a cavalier approach. Oh yeah, we create the technology, the chips that go into these devices that create the ability to create deep fakes, but we will not take responsibility if some person does something bad with it. And I get that to a degree, but companies still have a responsibility to be able to give people the capability to understand: am I seeing something real, or am I seeing something that was conjured up?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't even, even some of the emails in that you see come across. Like I just send my bookkeeper an email yesterday that I got from what appeared to be from QuickBooks,
Mhm.
and he said, don't worry about it, it's spam, and um, because it just didn't sound right,
Well,
so
yeah.
yeah, everybody's trying to hack something. So, hey, so listen, I'm in the multifamily business, right? I buy large apartment complexes and I raise capital from private individuals, and we share in the profits. How how can I use technology today more so to get to more people who might have an interest in participating in
Well, I think my first observation would be is that we were talking about the smart home before, and people now, buyers who are buying properties, either they're buying a home or even if they're buying a condo and a multi-dwelling type of unit, they kind of expect now for those homes to be smart home ready. Now, on the home side, obviously, there's also a push, obviously, for using solar panels to make sure that the homes have the most uh, uh, ability to use renewable energy, and that's all well and good. And that's kind of that probably could be a different podcast. But just at the smart home level, I think people are expecting homes to be smart home capable, meaning that are you using are there materials in that home that prevents Wi-Fi coverage from being ubiquitous all over the place, or is the home embracing technology? Now there's something called mesh routers that they've been out for quite some time that allow you to have not only great Wi-Fi coverage in the home, but through the entire property. Because you might, for example, people, one of the big surging categories in the smart home is security cameras. People want to have cameras that monitor their backyards. They may want to have those cameras in the back of their property, not necessarily mounted on the house, but on the property because they want to make sure that they don't see prowlers come into the property, and there's all kinds of capabilities in terms of people detection. Well, you need a Wi-Fi signal for that. So you got to make sure that you have Wi-Fi coverage that's ubiquitous all over your property. So that's a big deal because I am finding that whether they're buying a new property, whether they're buying an existing property, whether they're even buying a condo, frankly, is that property smart home ready?
it.
And the smart home obviously can save you quite a bit of time, and people don't give that consideration sometimes until they actually buy the property. Then start asking those questions. So having smart home friendly properties, I think, is a big deal.
So, what are some of the things that go into that smart home concept uh, when you're, like, and let's just talk about the house you live in, right? What are
Yes.
some of the benefits and what are some of the features that you can see in that process?
Well, first and foremost, if it's a brand new property, obviously things are a lot easier because you can do things without having to retrofit the house. But in a new property, for example, I would tell anybody who's building a brand new home, make sure that you have Ethernet jacks in every room, even in rooms that you might not expect it to have. You're going to have a computer attached because I mean, Wi-Fi is great. But there's nothing like having a wired connection if you can. I mean, I have a condo in San Jose, and I didn't build this, but whoever built it, they obviously didn't have the smart home in mind when they built it a few years earlier. And I've had to do some funky things and expensive things to make it more smart home capable. So having Ethernet jacks available and it's very inexpensive, by the way. To put an Ether jack in a room is probably $10, $15. It's running the cable behind the wall that becomes the big
Sure.
adventure. Making sure, frankly, that there are areas in the home that you want it to be for like home entertainment. You want to make sure that the rooms are situated in such a way that you're not getting glare from the windows. Making sure that when you're using windows, now the big thing, it's a huge, and it can save you a ton of money, is when you're putting blinds in homes. I mean, many homes have big bay windows, and big bay windows look great, except when it gets, you want to be able to pull those blinds out. And now they have smart blinds. Hunter Douglas and other companies make the ability that you can control your blinds every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. Those blinds go up to let the sun in, and then during the day those blinds go down, and that has a very friendly effect on using power and keeps your electricity bills and your AC bills very, very friendly. So making considerations like that is a very, very big deal. The other thing that's important is that a lot of people they'll tell me, Mark, I have a smartphone. I have a smart home speaker, whether it's an Amazon Alexa device or a Google Assistant device, and I can turn my lights on with a voice command. one of the things that's happening in the smart home is that there's an initiative called Matter. And this initiative means that any type of device that supports this Matter initiative, it doesn't matter whether it's from Google Assistant or whether it's from Amazon, an Amazon Alexa device, because my Alexa device will go off in a second because I use the magic word, or let's say Apple Siri, which is very, very popular if you've got an
Right.
iPhone.
Right.
The big pain in the ass, so to speak, with those devices is that if you have to use a specific wake word to get them to work. Well, the Matter initiative completely mitigates that. So regardless of what type of device you have, it will work with with a phrase that you define. That's a big deal. It makes life a lot easier. And what I like to explain to people, simply turning your lights on or turning the stereo on or controlling your AC, that's to me very basic. I mean, that's George Jetson 1.0. What's really going to become exciting is the ability, and AI will be part of this, by the way, is when smart homes they anticipate certain things. For example, you drive home, you pull up to up to your garage door through NFC technology that's in your smartphone. The home can sense that it's you. It authenticates that it's you. It automatically opens the garage door without you doing a thing because it knows that you're there within a few feet of the garage door. It turns the lights on. It turns security cameras on. It might turn some music on in the living room if you'd like. And if you forget, let's say you forget to control the garage door. Well, it knows that you're in the house and the garage door gets closed automatically. How many times have you know people who opened their garage door when they came home at night and they forgot to shut it, before they went to bed? So a lot of those things become really interesting. On the elderly side, on the monitoring side, I think the smart home will have tremendous impact for people who want to monitor their kids. Be able, in a very secure, private way, be able to sense, hey, did someone fall down in the house? They might be by themselves. I think that if you had an elderly parent who fell down, you might want to get an alert to your phone so you can find out what the heck is going on. I mean, Apple implemented that capability, fall down detection, with the Apple Watch. And I had a situation about a year ago. My mom was on vacation in Las Vegas, and I'm out here in California. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, I got a message that my mother fell down in the middle of a casino. Now, frankly, she was okay; everything was fine. But that was amazing that I was able to detect that remotely from several
Mark,
hundred.
really, I have to ask, what is your mom doing at 1 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the casino?
I think they were going out. They claim they were going out for dinner. We'll see. I'm not sure if that story is true or not. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah,
So
right. That's funny. Well, listen, how what do you want people to know about you, about your service, about your products, and how can you help people today?
well, I would love people to subscribe to my YouTube podcast. It's free of charge. It's a Smart Tech Check podcast, and that been a very popular channel. It's gotten over 3 million views in the last 5 years, so it's being discovered, which is great. And that podcast is really great because what I do is I talk to a lot of industry luminaries on the call from Silicon Valley. It's a YouTube podcast, which means that I make sure a product because a lot of products tend to be very, very visual. So that comes in very, very handy. But we talk about a lot of topics that are very important, and I do it in a very conversational way. Yes, I have a technology background. Yes, I can get into speeds and feeds, but I really like to have this podcast and be able to articulate messages that the average person can understand. So we're frequently talking about AI. We're frequently talking about the next big thing. For example, a good example of that is Apple has these new Vision Pro VR glasses. That was the big talk about a month ago. That they're not out yet. They won't be out until the early part of next year. That could be a game changer for a whole
Yeah,
variety of different ways. That will have applications, by the way, in the space that you play in real estate, for example. There's all kinds of
right.
interesting applications. But no one knows whether will Apple be able to crack the nut and make AR VR more of a mainstream thing rather than a very nichey category. So we talk about that quite a bit. But I'd love people to visit my website. You'll be able to see the link there for the YouTube channel and subscribe to it. I write on Tech News World. And you can easily go to Tech News World and subscribe to my newsletter that comes out a couple of times a week. Yeah, so that's exactly, I think, how they can reach out and get stay up to tune on the latest things in technology.
What's a piece of tech that somebody should have in their life today? Not a cell phone or something like that, but what's a piece of technology that somebody should have in their life today in the business world?
One of the privileges of doing the work that I do is a lot of companies are sending me products. If you could see behind my virtual screen, my home looks like Best Buy, and these companies never want the products back. They said, I guess they can't use them after they send them to somebody. HP recently sent me a 45-inch wide curved display. Now you might want to say, what do I need a 45-inch display? I'm not into gaming. It's remarkable in that you can plug two different computers into the monitor. So I can essentially have two side by side, a Windows screen and a Mac screen on the same monitor. And I can control everything from a single keyboard and a single mouse.
Wow.
And if you work at home, and I know that you do, if you're a work from home user, it is a godsend because most people, typically have a work computer and they have a personal computer. And this way, you don't have to kind of pivot around your house and have multiple mice and multiple keyboards. And it's not as expensive as you might think. I think the display is about $1,200, which is
Okay.
not peanuts, but it's not a $5,000 display. So that to me that's more of a kind of a niche type of product, but it has lots and lots of productivity. The other device I would recommend is make sure they get the latest and greatest router. Now, people take routers for granted. People upgrade their router at a very slow pace because once a router is working in someone's house, they don't want to really fool around with it. But the wireless technologies have been upgraded steadily over the last several years, and now there's Wi-Fi 6E routers. Wi-Fi 7 is coming very shortly, and when you get to that kind of router topology, which is a very technical word, you can have the type of speeds that rival if I plug a cable into an Ethernet jack. So if you're playing games, if you're streaming movies, if you have multiple people in the house doing 9 different things, these type of routers come in very, very handy. And by the way, to our discussion earlier in the week, the the mesh versions of these advanced routers have humongous amounts of coverage. You have to have a house like the White House in terms of size for these routers not to be able to provide that type of level of Wi-Fi coverage throughout your home and your back property and the front of your property, because again, you might have those type of you might have security cameras and other devices that are not attached to the house. So I would focus on making sure you have the latest and greatest Wi-Fi router, and that's a very modest investment. You can get those really best in class routers for $600 or $700.
Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Hey, so let's go back to the screen conversation for a minute.
Sure.
So
See,
I have
I piqued your interest.
Yeah, you did. So, I have three screens, right? I have my laptop and I have two other monitors that I work off of, and I might have an offering from a broker on one screen open and an underwriting tool on another one open and my emails on another one. Are you telling me that I can get one screen, a curved screen, and I could open up all these different programs on it?
Yes.
And I could do different things along that screen.
Yes. I mean, and what 90% of the population does exactly what you do. They have 2 or 3 monitors on their desktop, and unfortunately, that comes the headache with that, as you probably know. There's lots of cables all over
Yeah,
the place. And
right.
by the way, those setups generally don't accommodate multiple computers. And
Right.
most people have multiple computers. I mean, I can't think of a company out there that doesn't give their employees a computer. Well, a lot of people, for good reason, don't want to use their work computer for personal related stuff. So the ability to have 2 computers plugged into the same monitor, and you avoid all that cable mess, and be able to control everything with a single keyboard and single mouse is really a big deal. And I can tell you for a fact that it's made my life. It looks my home setup looks so much more streamlined and so much more professional. And now there's a lot more things you can do with this monitor. This monitor has a lot of bells and whistles, but the fact that it's so large, I have essentially have two 27-inch displays in front of me, though it's on a single monitor. And the fact that one is a Windows PC and one is a Mac, and I just move the mouse across the screen, and the mouse goes from the Windows session to the Mac session. It really is marvelous.
Yeah, interesting. And how about travel? So I travel a lot. And you get so accustomed to having the bigger screen, the bigger view. You travel, now you have your laptop, your little keyboard. You know I'm all thumbs anyhow. What do you think about, is there an auxiliary monitor that's easy to travel with? Is there an auxiliary keyboard that gives you the flexibility of a raised button and a wider, you know, typing platform?
Yes. So there's a number of companies that make very small, relatively small, 13, 14-inch LCDs that are very thin that you can travel with, and that you can design in such a way that you can put them behind the back of your notebook panel and slide it out essentially and have another monitor. Um, and that is all well and good, and I think that's productive. You've probably been in many hotel rooms where you're used to your big monitor at home, and all of a sudden now, when you're cramped in that hotel room and you're using your 13-inch
Yeah.
display, it drives you crazy. I had a situation not too long ago where I had to do a podcast while I was visiting my mom in South Carolina. And I had my trusty MacBook Pro with me, which I love. But when you're doing digital video editing, which you've probably done a bit of, when you're doing video editing on a very small display, it's very problematic because it's a very linear type of application. And having a large monitor, really is very helpful. So, when you're confined to a small display, the problem you run into is that you're hopping out of windows, and what should take you 10 minutes takes you an hour from a productivity standpoint.
Yeah.
Let me give you this as an idea to chew on. When I saw the Apple Vision Pro demo about a month and a half ago, they showed a demo where you could put these virtual goggles on, and you could put your Mac desktop in the virtual window. So let's say I'm traveling to a hotel and I have those goggles with me, and they're relatively stylish. I can put, instead of using my MacBook with a 13-inch display, from a virtual standpoint, I'm now using a 100-inch display. So think about that from an application standpoint. I'm in a hotel room, I'm confined. I don't have all my lovely equipment that I would normally use at home, but I can look now using these goggles into a virtual display and have not just one, but multiple 70, 80-inch displays in that virtual window. So from a productivity standpoint, that's amazing. And you talked a bit about what kind of items you might recommend for travel. Now I still think this is kind of far-fetched, but Apple did show many usage models where people were using those goggles when they were taking long plane rides. Hey, that would be great. I just zone out and I'm watching the news, and believe me, the experience that you get with these goggles are like nothing that's been on the market before. There's a reason why they're going to be $3,600 when they come out. So
Yeah.
it's not an inexpensive product, but those are the type of devices I think that looking forward are just going to change the way we work from a productivity standpoint, and even the way we travel. Now, again, I don't know if I would take those goggles and go on the Chicago Loop or go on the New York City subway system for a whole bunch of different reasons. But in my home, on long travel, I'm about to go to Germany to attend the IFA big trade. It's a consumer tech trade show in Berlin. Hey, and I'm coming from San Francisco, so it's a long, it's probably going to be about 16 hours in the air.
Yeah.
I'd be able to have that kind of thing, just because it would just make the time go by that much quickly.
Interesting. I thought you were going to just tell me I could just plug into the TV in the room or something.
No, you could do that. That's part of the app, but you've been able to do that. There have been versions. Meta, formerly Facebook, they have glasses called Oculus and Quest that you've been able to do that, but not at the level of quality that these new Apple Vision Pro glasses are. These Apple Vision Pro glasses have LCDs that have the same number of pixels that a 4K display has, a 4K TV. So that we're not looking, this is not amateur hour. It's so immersive that you almost get disoriented.
Interesting. Well, Mark, thanks for being here this morning. Tell people how they get a hold of you if they want to reach out.
If they want to reach out to me, they can reach out to me on Twitter or X at Mark Vena Tech Guy. That you can reach me at the website, www.smarttechresearch.net. Or if you want to email me, you can email me at mark@markvenatechguy.com.
And tell them again how they find out about your YouTube channel.
YouTube channel, just search on Smart Tech Check podcast, or just Smart Tech Check, and it'll come up.
Awesome. Mark, thanks for being here this morning. I appreciate you. I appreciate your knowledge. I'm a little overwhelmed. What a way to start a Thursday morning. But, hey, last question. What's the best book you've ever read?
The best book I've ever read? Was that the question?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a little hit. I'm a big history buff. The best letter that I've ever, best book I've ever read. There's a and it's not written by one person. It's a collective collection of all the letters that John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin wrote to each other during the Revolutionary War years. They saved all those letters, believe it or not, and it gives you such insight into the way those guys thought, and it's just a fantastic book. There is an editor who edited the collection, but it's a phenomenal collection of documents.
Nice. Well, thanks for being here this morning. I'm going to move you out. Say goodbye. If you hang with me in the back room for a minute, that'd be great.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you again.
Thanks, Mark. Hey, everybody. Wow. I hope your head's not as spinning as much as mine is this morning, but all this tech stuff is sometimes hard to keep up with, and it changes so fast. But Mark was great this morning. I think at some point we'll have him back and talk about some new things too, right? Hey, remember October 19th and 20th, the annual Multifamily Summit is coming up, virtual 2-day event. Platform filled with over 20 great speakers and panelists. We're going to bring great knowledge, great information to help you grow your multifamily business. In the show notes, you will see a link to go and register. And I have one more quick announcement this morning. Finally, my new book is out, Winning Strategies for Property Management. You can get it at Barnes & Noble or online at my website. But I've been working on this, and if you are somebody in the multifamily or just a real estate investment space, you're looking for tips and suggestions and knowledge on managing property, I've got a lot in here filled with 65 different forms and leases and things like that that'll help you on your business on a daily basis. Thanks for being here this morning. We're here every Thursday. Don't forget us on Saturday morning, Multifamily Unplugged, and or on the Facebook group, Multifamily Unplugged. Have a great week.